We are about to embark upon a series of strange and exciting, dangerous adventures. Adventures that will lead us to all parts of the world.
Hello and welcome to another Bad Comic Review. This time we're looking at Archie 1955 issue 1. This is part of a 5-part miniseries from Archie Comics. Story by Bryan, Augustyn and Mark Waid. Line art by Tom Grummett. Coloring by Glenn Whitmore. Lettering by Jack Morelli. The editorial team is massive with Mike Pellerito, Victor Gorlick, Stephen Oswald, Jamie Lee Rotante, and Vincent Lavalo. Editor-in-Chief Victor Gorlick. Archie has been doing a lot of different styles over the last few years, and some of them are really interesting, making their characters into supernatural beings, doing like what if Archie died scenarios, and these period pieces. The time period pieces are actually pretty good, and I've been meaning to review them. Thankfully I jumped on this one when I first saw it, and it's about Archie during his senior year. He's graduating and his band decides to try and rock out a little bit, and Archie goes to the other side of the tracks to see bands, that sort of thing, sort of a Chuck Berry knockoff, and he gets the opportunity to do a demo for this radio DJ who's sort of a promoter, and we also see Veronica trying to cash in on this as well, either to help Archie or to get money off of it. It's hard to say which. Either way, this was actually a really solid issue. I thought it was pretty interesting. It's more of a slice of life. It's not a superhero book, obviously, but it looks like it's got a lot of potential. We see Archie Andrews jumping in on the birth of rock and roll right at the right time. There's a lot of alternate covers for this. I have the Audrey Mock cover, and I like it. It got me to buy the issue. So I think this actually has a lot of potential. There's no politics in it. It's not your usual nonsensical Mark Waid book. It's actually pretty well toned down, and it's got some interesting plot threads. So I'm intrigued to see where this goes. I'm surprised I'm recommending an Archie book again, but this is definitely worth picking up and checking out. Is it worth $4? Probably not. It's probably only about a $2.99 book. I'd have felt okay paying $2 to $3 for this. $4 seems a bit much, but the art is solid on the inside and the writing is solid. So all around, it's a pretty well put together comic. I would definitely say it's worth reading, but that's just my opinion. Thank you so much for listening and supporting the channel. If you enjoyed the video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe so you don't miss future reviews. If you want to help the channel in other ways, links from the description and on the about page. And as always, we hope to see you on the next one.
We are about to embark upon a series of strange and exciting, dangerous adventures. Adventures that will lead us to all parts of the world.
Hello and welcome to another Bad Comic Review. This time we're looking at Archie 1955 issue 2. This is part of the miniseries from 2019. Story by Bryan, Augustyn and Mark Waid. Pencils by Tom Grummett on pages 1 through 15, 18, and 20. Rick Burchett on 16, 17, and 19. Lettering by Jack Morelli. Coloring by Glenn Whitmore. Inks by Bob Smith on pages 1 through 15, 18, and 20. Rick Burchett on 16, 17, and 19. There's a massive editorial team of Mike Pellerito, Victor Gorlick, Stephen Oswald, Jamie Lee Rotante, and Vincent Lavalo, and editor-in-chief was Victor Gorlick. I don't know why they needed a 5-person editorial team, but, you know, whatever. So Archie's singing a song and it becomes a little bit of a hit. He cuts a demo in this record your voice thing, but the song isn't his. He may have liberated it from someone else, so he goes to talk to the original artist and makes an agreement with him that he'll give him full credit. But the people behind the scenes may have a different motive altogether, and it looks like the lodges are going to get involved in Archie's career. Overall, this was a good story. It's got a very 1950s feel. It's an interesting concept, and I'm really liking where it's going. Effectively, Archie is starting rock and roll, and he even has nightmares about being a big fat has-been and dying on stage. This was a fun read. I would definitely recommend it. I thought it was a good book. The art is solid. It's got kind of a mixed feel between the old style of Archie and a more modern take on him. That worked out really well. It's got a nice bright look to it. It's got that kind of Archie feel, but at the same time with a more modern sensibility. So I would say this is definitely a recommend. If you get a chance to pick it up, I think you'll like this. If you like stories about past generations, especially from like the 50s, you'll, I think, dig this. But it's not going to be for everybody. It's not a superhero book. It's more of a personal story. So I think that will probably turn off some comic readers, but I think if you're looking for good comics, this will be worth checking out. It's got a good story to tell, and it's definitely well well written with good art, and that's pretty hard to find these days. So if you get a chance to pick it up, I would recommend it. But that's just my opinion. Thank you so much for listening and supporting the channel. If you enjoyed the video, please give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing so you don't miss future reviews. If you want to help the channel in other ways, links are in the description and on the About page. And as always, we hope to see you on the next one.
We are about to embark upon a series of strange and exciting, dangerous adventures. Adventures that will lead us to all parts of the world.
Hello and welcome to another Bad Comic Review. This time we're looking at Archie 1955 issue 3. This is a part of a 5-part miniseries from Archie Comics from 2019. Story by Bryan Augustyn and Mark Waid. Pencils and inks by Ray Anthony Height. Lettering by Jack Morelli. Coloring by Glenn Whitmore. Editorial team was Mike Pellerito, Victor Gorlick, Stefan Oswald, Jamie Lee Rotante, Vincent Lovallo. With editor-in-chief Victor Gorlick. Main cover by Ben Caldwell. Actually, the cover's not bad. It does kind of give you an idea what's going on. So we jump ahead a little bit in time to 1956 when Archie gets his first TV gig. Him and the boys have made a record. They've got 3 hits off of it, and now TV is calling. So we get to see them do their first television gig, and Archie and the Rivermen are a giant success. He even gets some encouragement from a famous guy named Kid Diamond, who he looks up to. Betty is not taking things very well. Veronica, however, is getting very close to Archie. And of course, we come to find out that Earl Dixon, who's been writing Archie's songs, is not getting any money, and the lodges are basically just ripping them off. So Dixon is getting money directly from Archie, but the fame is starting to kind of get to him. But there is an interesting twist at the end that was pretty good. This has been a really fun series. I was actually really impressed. They've taken a bunch of characters that are kind of a joke to a lot of older comic readers because they've been around so long. These were kind of characters that had been stuck in the 50s in a lot of ways, and taken them and set them in the 50s and made it really interesting. My main complaint would be that the paper is very, very thin. If it was a little thicker, it would actually be pretty good quality. The colors are really good. The storyline's really good. The art has some corner cutting, and it shows. Some of the panels have faces kind of slapdashed on there, really lazy looking, and you could tell that the artist was doing that probably for time constraints or just out of general laziness, because when he does close-up shots, they're really good. I'd say the majority of the panels are really well done, but there's a few that look rushed about every other page or so, which is a pretty minor complaint overall, because people in the foreground of most images look fine. It's the background people that look kind of lazy. Otherwise, it's a solid issue. I still recommend this miniseries. You could probably jump in on this issue and not be completely lost. You'll lose a lot of the nuance, but you can enjoy this issue on its own. So there is that. Is it worth $4? Probably not. This is a good $2 book, but I am enjoying it quite a bit, so I don't feel cheated for my money. It's a good book. I would definitely recommend it. If you like 1950s or slice of life stuff, you'll get your money's worth out of this. So in that sense, it's worth $4, but I don't think any new comic is really worth $4 most of the time. If this had been put out by Alterna, it'd have been hands down worth the money, because then it would have been $2 on newsprint, and I think that would have worked for this, because the paper quality is so thin that it might as well have been on newsprint and have been thicker feel, and it won't rip as easily as it does. Check it out. It's definitely worth it. Archie Comics is doing some really interesting stuff the past few years, and I'm really liking what I'm reading of it, so maybe I'll pick up some more down the line. That being said, that's just my take. Thank you so much for listening and supporting the channel. If you enjoyed the video, please consider subscribing, and don't forget to hit the like button. If you want to help the channel in other ways, links are in the description and on the About page. And as always, we hope to see you on the next one.
We are about to embark upon a series of strange and exciting, dangerous adventures. Adventures that will lead us to all parts of the world.
Hello and welcome to another Bad Comic Review. This time we're looking at Archie 1955, issue 4. Story by Bryan Augustyn and Mark Waid. Pencils and inks by Derek Charm. Coloring by Glenn Whitmore. Lettering by Jack Morelli. Editorial team was Mike Pellerito, Victor Gorlick, Stefan Oswald, Jamie Lee Rotante, Vincent Lovallo, with editor-in-chief Victor Gorlick. There are more editors than there are creative team. So Mr. Lodge is taking taking very strong advantage of Archie. He's got Archie doing movies. It really tracks with the Elvis story, like he's doing a prison movie. It's called Big House Blues, and unfortunately Archie's having problems getting his friend Dixon paid. He's had to use a pseudonym called Del Paxton in order to get Dixon paid. Now, he doesn't seem very happy with his life. He seems to miss the small town charm, and the fame is already kind of wearing on him, so he's having some trouble. But a little kid at a party gives him some good advice, and it's actually a really interesting issue. There's a lot of plot here that I don't want to spoil. The art's okay. It's a step down from what the first couple issues were. It's a big step down, and I don't know why they did that, quite honestly, because it's slightly better than last issue, but it really betrays that this is probably an artist that you haven't heard of and probably won't hear a whole lot of if you're not reading indie books. But I think the artist has some potential, but they need to work on mouths. I'm pretty sure this is digital art, which I generally don't like, but there's a really cool shot where Archie's looking out a window and you see his reflection back at him. That scene was actually really well done. Most of the panels are passable. I'm not upset with them. It's just that there's a little bit of lack of refinement here. It's not a bad issue, it's just that some of the art needs refinement a little bit more, and this might be a bad fit as far as storytelling goes for the artist. But I am still going to recommend it because I thought it was a pretty good issue and it's pretty interesting. Telling a really good story. Not a great jumping on point though, so if you happen to stumble across just this issue, it's not going to make a whole lot of sense at all. But as the miniseries progresses, this is actually a pretty solid addition to that, and it doesn't really feel like they're padding for the trade. They're actually telling a pretty good narrative. So I'll recommend this issue. Is it worth $4? Probably not, but if you're reading the series, I would say pick it up if you can find it at a reasonable price. And I'd say about $2, $2.50 is more than fair for this one. Paper quality is okay. It's a little thin feeling when you actually get into the paper, but it's much better quality than most of the books on the market today. You're getting your value for the dollar as far as the paper quality goes, at least compared to Marvel. So there's that, I suppose. I don't like the cover though. I think the cover's incredibly boring and it really doesn't do the book justice. But at least it's a decently drawn image. I would just prefer it was something better. So this is a mild recommendation. If you could find it for about half cover price, I would definitely say pick it up. If you're already reading the miniseries, I'd say get it if you're liking it. You might want to just wait for the trade paperback. I'll see how it wraps up before I recommend it as a trade, but this was a decent installment at least. But that's just my take. Thank you so much for listening and supporting the channel. If you enjoyed the video, hit the like button and subscribe so you don't miss future reviews. If you want to help the channel in other ways, links are in the description and on the About page. And as always, we hope to see you on the next one.
We are about to embark upon a series of strange and exciting, dangerous adventures. Adventures that will lead us to all parts of the world.
Hello and welcome to another Bad Comic Review. This time we are looking at Archie 1955, issue 5. This is the final issue of the miniseries. Story by Bryan Augustyn and Mark Waid. Pencils by Ray Anthony Height for pages 1 through 4, 7 through 10, and 12. Pencils and inks on pages 5, 6, and 11 by Joe Eisma. Pencils and inks on pages 13 through 20 by Rick Burchett. Lettering by Jack Morelli. Colors by Glenn Whitmore. Editor-in-chief was Victor Gorlick. Editorial team, Mike Pellerito, Victor Gorlick, Stefan Oswald, Jamie Lee Rotante, and Vincent Lavallo. Main cover by Laura Braga. Actually, the cover's okay. It doesn't really sell you on it per se, but it does get the point across as to what's going on. So we see how frustrated Archie is at having to do all these low-end movies and garbage albums that go along with them. He had to perform with a chicken, do store openings, stuff like that. And he's just fed up. Mr. Lodge is clearly taking advantage of him, and we learn what happens to him, how he disappears and where he went, and we finally figure out who the mysterious narrator is that's talking to this reporter, and it's really not who I thought it was going to be, so I was a little surprised by that. Overall, I thought it was a good wrap up to the miniseries. It's not going to make any sense on its own though. You have to have read the miniseries to appreciate what they're trying to do here and what they're trying to establish with the story. So it's a good wrap up to the miniseries, but I would honestly honestly just pick this up as a trade paperback. I think it's much better as a complete story than as a single issue floppy. But it is really well done. I did enjoy it, and I'm glad I bought it. I didn't feel cheated for my money. I thought it was a good story. So that being said, I'll definitely recommend this. The art is definitely weak at times, and you can tell different artists worked on this because the quality varies pretty dramatically at points. And sometimes faces are a little difficult, especially near the end, but it's a mixed bag on that. But overall, it's not the worst in the miniseries for sure. So that being said, I'll still recommend it. I thought it was a good story, and the art's okay in this one. But that's just my take. Thank you so much for listening and supporting the channel. If you enjoyed the video, please hit the like button and subscribe so you don't miss future reviews. If you want to help the channel in other ways, links to my Patreon and Streamlabs are in the description and on the About page. And as always, we hope to see you on the next one.